Bonk. Alright. Episode 4. Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro. Trial Part 2. I have no idea what's happening right now. Okay, let's see. History. You know what? Summation examination should be good. But, alright, let's go. I have considered the defense counsel's request for further summation examination of the jury, and I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to this procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination. That's such a BS. Oh my gosh. I presume this jury is ready, Mr. Foreman? We are, my lord. I don't know what that option is. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of this crime. What is the crime? I don't remember. Oh, yikes. The jurors' contentions. The accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his. If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? Dearie me, it was only a little book, hardly life-threatening, even with a direct hit. Look, I just wanted to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tidy bit of trouble. Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. It gave me the sneezes. Yes. Considerably more tangible arguments from all members of the jury this time around, it seems. With one notable exception, of course. My learned friend. I destroyed my voice every time with this. My learned friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness testimony. So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene. And moreover, Shank, no one else was even at the scene to commit the crime. Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it can be argued any other way. That means, I'm afraid, that during the summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. But how? What would even constitute a tangible explanation here? Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed the woman and how? Who stabbed the woman and how? Those two details are all you need to provide. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted. And here I was thinking this might be hard. But Mr. Naruhodo, you have to do it. Otherwise, this really will be where the trial ends. No pressure then. That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you are prepared, counsel? Oh, yes, my lord. Alright, Ryunosuke. Focus your mind now. Clearly the key to this summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid. Or should I say, Mrs. Garadeb. We did have a book that disappeared from the Garadeb's house in the evening of the incident, and the 4th book found in the victim's hand. There must be a way to link the two. Yes, that's what we have to find, using every technique I've learned in my short career so far, whatever it takes. Don't forget to keep an eye on Mrs. Garadeb and how she reacts, even to the things other people say. Ooh, foreshadowing. Also teaching you how to play the game, but every night I kinda need the reminder. The defense's rebuttal. Okay. Left evidence of the scene, 3 books. If there was some explanation for how the victim was stabbed, we have no explanation. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed. Okay, The book is the Lion's Pride. It has to be... We've known that this is the book from the fire-ish. Only a little book. He doesn't matter. Fire at home a while ago. Three books. I want to know more about the sneezing.
Hold it!
Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case?
Sorry? What's that? You'll have to speak up, lad.
Could you tell us more about that fire?
It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on the top. It did. What a sight to behold it was.
You put candles on a cake? Was it some kind of devil worship?
Of course not. It was an angel cake. To celebrate my birthday, obviously.
It seems that it's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo.
Anyway, I mustered all of my puff to blow them out. Only I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but the candles went flying all over the room. The furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke.
Definitely sounds like devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold. But how did you catch a cold from a fire?
What a fiasco it was. The grandchildren, bless them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then, because the whole room had filled with smoke, of course, we had to open all the windows to clear it.
The windows.
The biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave, it did. I caught a terrible cold from it, put me in the hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry.
I knew it was devil worship all along. But something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason. The window. Ooh. We need to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman on the street. As we know, as well as how he or she could have done it. Yes, but once again, the jurors' statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced that they're right, even in the face of logical arguments on the contrary. I think you're going to need to put them against each other to force them to accept an alternate explanation. Yes. I don't necessarily need to find contradictions between their assertions, Just a connection might do the trick. Alright, I'll see what I can do. If anything stands out, I'll go in for a strike. That's the spirit. Let's pit you with... I hope this isn't too early. These two jurors' statements clearly contradict one another. Yep, no, too early. They do? How exactly, counsel?
Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me. What's that you say? Speak up, lad, speak up.
This is bad. Juror number 3, do you see?
Oh, me? See what, sir?
Not too early? Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter.
Well, yes. Of course. Because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the...
Oh! Exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garadeb household, and Mr. Garadeb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke.
Oh my!
Oh my!
Excuse me!
Juror number 4, do you have anything to say about that? Frantic teasing, you're gonna have to pee later. Mrs. Garadeb.
Oh, dearie me!
What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am? It's imperative that you confirm something for the full court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now. What is it? When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window? What? I beg your pardon? What are you insinuating? The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window. And what if we did? Oh, alright then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window, which can't happen then easy, since I continued to give him a justly deserved book battering. Even though your house was on fire? Oh, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It would have been terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise. Of course, I should have realized. That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must have that added to Mrs. Garadeb's formal statement. Now you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I'd clean forgotten, but it's true. The window could have been when the woman's throwing books. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. Not just a possibility.
Objection!
Absolutely true. Those two statements clearly contradict each other.
Hold it!
I'm sorry, but as foreman of the jury, I have to object. That's complete nonsense. What? I'm a banker, don't forget. An educated man, and there's no contradiction as I can see. Dang it. Too early. Okay. Quite so, Mr. Foreman. I will not permit a whimsical attack against the good members of the jury council. There was nothing whimsical about it. It's very important to listen carefully to every juror, Mr. Naruhodo. Then you can decide where the contradictions really lie, if there are any. Okay. It's not just definitely a possibility, it's definitely yes.
Hold it!
At the point when the victim was attacked on Briar Road, we know there was a small house fire at the Garadeb household with the opposite, in the Garadeb household on the opposite side of the street. Well, yes, it certainly seems that way. And on account of the smoke, I imagine they would have had the windows wide open in spite of the cold. We also know that Mrs. Garadeb was throwing flaming books at her husband. Her husband, who was backed into a corner by the window due to his wife's frenzied attack. Yes, that's right. So there's definitely a chance that one of the books could have flown past the man and out of the window. Only what? Only I can't really see how it would have gone all the way over to the other side of the road, that's all. So I don't really see how I can change my decisions, really. Oh, I see. That wasn't enough? What is it going to take to persuade these people? Okay, press that. The fourth book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book that Mr. Garadeb told us he had been reading. Well, I really couldn't say. On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband the copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading? I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him. Now that you come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right. Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset? Because I couldn't, you insolent man. I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on, as well you know. I really don't. I barely noticed I was throwing a book.
Oh boy!
Must let the title of it. Oh?
Excuse me!
Sir? What is it, juror number 5?
You know something? I remember what it was. The memory I blocked out.
Ah.
It was listening to what this granny was saying. Brought it all flooding back.
Who are you calling a granny, you cheeky devil? I am Mr. Garrideb, or the maid, I'll have you know. The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being hit all the time.
It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got home after work, put my hand in my pocket for the wages I just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out.
Oh dear, what a disaster.
You haven't heard the half of it, boy.
Oh?
The wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I've lost a day's wages, love. Next thing I know, the blade was whistling past my ear. Stuck into the wall next to me, it did. About an inch deep.
No words, just terror.
I could smell it then, the god-awful stench of the tans. I was sure I was going to end up face down and in muddy banks that night, I can tell you. Now, that's a real disaster, isn't it?
I'll never use the word lightly again.
Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rag, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it.
Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. No, I wasn't thinking that at all. Throwing household objects at people is, well, it's so uncivilized. At least attack with honor, using a bow or the like. What? Attack? Who are you going to attack? Never mind. Anyway, this man's words could be rather significant, I think. Alright. We'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare. Okay. I mean, we know that maybe knife flew out the window, but I don't think I can pit it against that right now, so...
Hold it!
So, this line of questioning is worthless. So, you might be willing to change your decision, you mean?
Oh my, such delight on your face. But I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I am a very modern, metropolitan and rational woman.
That's great.
If one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? So why read them in the first place? You see, modern, metropolitan, and rational thinking, wouldn't you say?
And not at all extreme.
As I see it, an overwhelmingly suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelmingly strong testimony. So despite the one or two minor puzzlements, I do declare that man was overwhelmingly guilty. Modern, metropolitan, and rational logic, wouldn't you say?
Overwhelmingly.
But us modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know? So I'd be only too happy to consider an exciting new theory if you come up with one.
I'd be happy to do that too, if only I could.
Let's do our very best not to disappoint the modern and metropolitan
young lady. Right. I'm glad you omitted rational there. Okay, so... Those free books... I mean, is there a possibility that they went...
Hold it!
But as we now know, there were 4 books, not 3. Well, what difference does it make? There's every possibility that the 4th book, in fact, belongs to the defendant's landlord. Yes, that's the part I have a problem with. Sorry? Well, at the point the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said. That's not exactly how I put it, no. Well, anyway, the point is the fellow and his wife were somewhere else when it happened.
I think that's what you call a strong alibi.
So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it, which only leaves the Nipponese fellow. Honestly, I can't see what all this palaver's about. It's a done deal, isn't it? Palaver. Unnecessarily elaborate or complex procedure. I suppose it is, since I have nothing witty left to say. Okay, so... So the window was open when the Gyarados were arguing that day. Yes, Mrs. Gyarados finally admitted to it, which is a very significant victory for the defense. I feel like the fog's starting to clear and an alternative explanation to this case is starting to show itself. But, okay, so I already pitted number 3 and number 4, right? Right? The problem is, I already pitted these two against each other and it failed. I mean, I'll try it again.
Objection! Hold it!
Yeah, we already did that. Do I press her again?
Hold it!
Okay, fourth block, fire damage, Lion's Pride. Blah blah blah. Wait. when you feel the way I did, you don't care what it is, you just want to smash it into his face. You see where violence can lead, Mr. Zato? I'm disheartened to think you might believe me capable of such behavior. Anyway, I have a feeling I might have noticed someone reacting a little strangely to Mrs. Garrideb's remarks just now. Perhaps I missed something while I was preoccupied. Okay, but I got it earlier. Do I pick these two? Or do I put number 3 and number 1?
Objection! Hold it!
That's a fail.
Hold it!
I'll trust this. Your wife really threw a kitchen knife at you?
That's right. She was chopping meat with it. Had a tidy edge on it, believe me. Still, it's all memories, isn't it? It started with that smile she threw me when we were courting. And since then, the list of things she's thrown at me has grown along with our relationship. There was a cup, then a glass, then a pot, a kettle, a chair, a wardrobe, a cooker, a bathtub.
Your wife must be even beefier than you.
And things came to a head last week when she threw me right into the Thames. Still, she's not so bad when she's calmed down. She's a little sweetheart, really.
I'm so happy for you.
If you want to know what I think this whole idea of ladies first, that word so obsessed with in this country, was thought up by some clever lads who had been tossed into the Thames a few too many times by their wives.
That's a very interesting theory. What a terrible thought. On the face of it, this juror's statement sounds like a really extreme anecdote. But I think it might turn out to be an extremely powerful weapon. A weapon that I might be able to use to make the jurors accept an alternative explanation here. Okay. I guess let's do this. Last thing I can think of. 1 star left. I'll save so we don't have to go back to it. Or I think that. Wait. I think it's smarter than that.
Objection!
I should have gone with my gut. Those two statements clearly have a deeply significant connection. Good grief. You mean they don't contradict each other? Explain, counsel, at once. Okay, so I don't have to do contradictions. Good to know. Juror number 2. Do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative? Oh my, what do you mean? An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back. Now, what you talking about? We've demonstrated that the 4th book, The Lion's Pride, was found at the scene of the crime. Originated in Mr. Garadab's room at the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garadab household to the street below. Eh? What's that now? After all, Mrs. Garadab could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4? What are you insinuating now, you little beanpole? I'm beginning to think that ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps she's had a feeling this might be what happened. Now you listen here, you Eastern Gala. A small Australian cockatoo with a grey back and rosy pink head and underparts, abundant and regarded as a pest. Okay. Oh, that's cute! Now, you listen here, you Eastern Gala. As foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house, but what was it? I'm really taking a big gamble here. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't any real evidence to back it up. But I'm certain that at the very least this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman. I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garadab household to the scene of the crime
Take that!
Juror number 4, Mrs. Garadab. What? What now? I must apologize in advance for this. But I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before? Ah! Good Lord, counsel. What on earth are you doing? That's the That's the weapon that was lodged in the victim's back, man. Yeah. Give the woman the ability to not tell you straight. That maybe she didn't know this knife was the knife. And she can go on ahead and lie. Dumbass. My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Giradab were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Giradab was hurling anything she could at her husband, who had been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke, and through which a book sailed to land at the crime scene. You can't seriously believe that! The book was found in the victim's grasp. Are you saying that it flew out of the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand? Ha! Even my missus hasn't got an aim like that. Yes, I admit there are many details we don't yet understand, but that's the point. That's precisely why. We must not allow this trial to end. Not right now. Oh my! Ah! Mrs. Giradab, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before or not? Oh! My lord, I wish to change my decision. I'm a woman of my word, after all. Thank you, madame. Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end right now with so many unanswered questions. Mr. Foreman, I'd have to agree. Not that I think that the granny didn't mind. Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either. All together now, ladies and gents. That's not all together. We did it. Oh, congratulations, Master Naruhodo. So, as a result of the defense's summation examination, a number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 juries called guilty against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided, and this trial will continue. Now then, Lord Van Sykes, how does the prosecution wish to proceed?
This trial is rapidly descending into a farce.
Oh man, it looks so fake. I never noticed how fake it looks, but it looks so fake.
Like a corked wine, the first few sips are bitter enough. But what follows is so repugnant. It's good for nothing save the gutter.
If I may, Lord Van Zykes, the defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened. No, we haven't. Not really.
Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke to which I barely know how to respond. But let me start by insisting that you must all familiar yourselves better with the relative positions of those places being discussed.
What do you mean by that? What's his angle this time?
You mean, what's the angle of the knife? Cause it was a very, very far shot, and it's hard to imagine that it could actually happen. It's across the road. Oh no.
It should already be more than apparent that between the two crime scene and the Garadab household runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. Which means that the distance from the Garadab's house to the scene is some, yes, 15 yards.
Let me see. 15 yards? That's around 14 meters. Oh, that is far. 14 meters? Oh, that's a little farther than I imagined. We were on the street, good sir. You should imagine it the way it should be. That you saw it.
And as you ladies and gentlemen of the jury rightly noted as having portentous significance, the fourth book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, the smoldering book, wantonly hurled by the lady of the house, traveled some 15 yards to land on the opposite side of the road, neatly between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb. Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend?
No, she probably picked it up at some point.
And did the jackknife follow a near identical trajectory to plunge into the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots.
There's nothing I can say to that. That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice. I don't enjoy making the voice, that's for sure. Mr. Sato, serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he? Maybe let's pick our battles here. My lord, might I be allowed to speak? As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense. Yes, go ahead. The prosecution may consider the idea a fantasy, but what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leaning. And as such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. To that end, juror number 4, Miss Joan Garadeb, must be called to testify and submit cross-examination. Saints Larve. Cross-examination of a juror? Order! 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 Well, this is hardly irregular. This is unprecedented for a member of jury to be summoned to the witness stand. And this is why you check your jury. Make sure none of the jurors have any connection to the case before you pick them. Yup.
Objection!
I love him so much. And unnecessary. Lord Van Sarks. There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth in it, then both a burning book and a jackknife must have flown through the sky before the couple's eyes. And we must assume that they would... I don't know if the stream is okay. Okay. I think it's reconnected. And we're good. Okay. Yes, sir. Constable Rolly Beat. Reporting for duty, sir. Well, good morning, officer. Sorry for dozing until now, sir. I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared on my beat, sir. Oh, they're so heroic, these London bobbies. Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more. Oh, Rolly, my hero, you make me swoon. Very well. I hereby reject the defense's request. Oh. And order the witnesses to stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of the events. Yes, sir! This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mr. Garadeb. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Garadeb house are topped hinge casements. Obviously,
If there had been anything thrown out the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go fetch help, but my trusty bully was there to make sure nothing was disturbed.
I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Well, this is quite startling. Top hinged casement windows.
That detail was not in the police report, Constable. Ah, yes, sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy. You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable. No, sir.
Sorry, but what exactly are top hinged casement windows?
And you. You cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend.
Of course, sorry.
I found it.
Miss Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mr. Garrideb's room. Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's room. Alright, I'll try.
So the window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house. But as it's a topped hinged casement window, it swings open along the upper edge, you see.
I'm glad you've rectified your ignorance. A casement window is most prominent feature is its stay. A metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount.
It prevents its opening? This is all news to me.
Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or a knife had been thrown through the open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below.
No.
You see the problem then? Good. Your education in Windows is complete. There was never a possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered, something we've discounted already.
That can't be.
You see that, Rolly? That young Japanese man just collapsed in agony.
Oh yes, my darling, I saw it. I saw how he crumbled before me.
Oh, Rolly, you're so strong.
How is this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and already my argument's been destroyed. Counsel, if you could drag yourself upright again. The court awaits your cross-examination. My lord. Oh good, another desperate situation. Okay, what do we have? We have... We have the fact that you are a sleepy, sleepy boy.
Hold it!
By which you mean they don't fully open fully, is that correct? How do you know this? Like, why did you go and investigate that it's one of those? Yes, sir. They're just there to allow a bit of air for the house, you see. So they're restricted as to how much they open. And therefore, anything thrown out the window from inside the room would simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here is the location where objects would have fallen. Yes. Directly opposite the scene of the crime, on the other side of the rather wide road. Would it have been so hard for somebody to mention this top-hinged casement thing before?
But then the trial wouldn't have gone this far.
Well, I have another question for you, Constable. And what would that be, sir? How do you even know? Why would you have any idea of what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house is furnished with?
Ah, well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday.
Oh?
Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, Mrs. Beat?
Sorry?
You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that?
Oh, I was just remembering, that's all. We really were so lucky.
Lucky? What do you mean?
Well, of course, I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. But we were just so lucky it didn't happen on Rolly's beat. It was so close, you see.
It didn't happen on Molly's beat? Oh, I hadn't realized.
Oh, okay. Oh yes, that street, Briar Road, that's the boundary between Rolly's Beat and the next one. Isn't that right, my love? My love. My love. No.
Constable Beat. Oh, yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with interviewing the occupants of the Garadeb household yesterday. The house is on my beat, you see, sir. that really was cutting it close then. Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garadeb household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it Does that mean that the pavement next to it is as well? Outside the Garadeb's house? Yes, ma'am. Pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat. I see. I was unaware of that. Just think, if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of the Briar Road, we would have never been able to go out for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of a Bobby, after all. Extraordinary people are Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners.
Do you know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way of rewarding my bully for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling?
That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it. I think perhaps we should make sure we have that information officially on record. Leave it to me, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll take care of it immediately. The case's file of information has been updated on the court record. Did they move the body? And now it's my turn, I think. Sus. When did they go out for the dinner? Like, did they go and then find the body later when they were walking back? Cause I thought he had the time.
Hold it!
But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and it was dark.
Oh, but Rolly and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for a lucky star.
Sorry?
The star that will guide us to eternal happiness.
Can't it guide you to answer the question?
If a flaming buck had crossed across the sky in front of us,
it would have lit up like a shooting star.
and if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Rolly be an inspector, I would have said, 3 times at least.
Of course, with the smog and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars. In short, you were trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you. Yes, sir, that's correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir. It certainly seems like they're telling the truth.
And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her.
Okay, left the scene.
Hold it!
Yes, you said you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer. Is that right?
That's right, yes. If it had been on Rolly's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course.
Don't feel bad, my love. Can't be expected to know the location of every police box on every beat.
So Rolly told me the way. Only, I sort of got a little lost on the way.
Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pat.
Oh, Rolly.
Oh, please.
So I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. But like I said, Rolly was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed.
I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sir.
Nothing to report, eh? Nothing to report?
That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time. Never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that on the yard's honor, sir.
Really? That seems a little strange.
Beg your pardon, sir?
Strange, sir. Seems altogether regular to me. This burnt copy of The Lion's Pride was originally in the Geradeb household, so the question remains, how did it find its way onto the hand of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time?
Aha! Could it be a different sort of copy, sir? One that would just happen to be burnt as well?
Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As we can see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder.
Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived on the scene.
Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. The two mysteries of how that knife ended up in her back, and how that book ended up in her hand. There must be some common thread between them. I'm so sorry, Mr. Naruhodo. I had no right to speak out. What do you mean? I requested the cross-examination of Mrs. Geradeb without consulting you. Even if the judge did deny me. Oh, I see. Well, I agree with you. We do need testimony from Mrs. Geradeb if we are ever going to get to the truth of this matter.
Do you really think so?
Well, think about it. No matter how far across the road or how the window opens, Mr. Geradeb's book found its way to the scene of the crime somehow, didn't it?
You're right.
And then there was Mrs. Geradeb's reaction to me showing her the knife. The woman's hiding something, I'm sure of it.
You're right again.
We need to use this cross-examination to uncover more clues. We'll get to the bottom of this, one way or another, I swear.
Yes.
Okay, what do I have?
Case file. Photographs. Lion's Pride. I don't think I pressed this. How can you say that for certain? A very good question, sir. And the answer is this. It is the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder for all us policemen of our sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he? Did he? I can't say I remember. I really can't remember. To patrol the streets of London town and to uphold the peace of the common man. That's what the job's all about. And that's why I stand here today because my long-suffering wife, beside my long-suffering wife, and tell you a Bobby's good for his word. While rubbing my tired eyes, admittedly, sir. Oh, Rolly, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Ugh. No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Gerdeb? Ah, I see, sir. You should have said so earlier, sir. Yes. Well, so could you answer the question? What a waste of time, then. That was a waste of time, then. Absolutely, sir. I'll answer it to the fullest of my abilities, sir. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Gerdeb's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. But before I get into that, sir, just one thing. Yes? I'd very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British Constitution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London Bobbies and how we uphold our guiding principles. I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here. So to that end, sir, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. But I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears. Thank you. I'll try. Constable Beats' warrant card has been entered in the court record. Before we get to that, policeman will strive to preserve the peace within his allowed beat. Patrolling officer expected to walk 20 miles around his beat every day for the furtherance of community relations. Any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Yeah, it sounds like they moved the body to the other side so it wouldn't disrupt the wedding anniversary dinner. Can I ask you something, please, Mr. Lawyer, sir? Oh, yes, of course. What is it? You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell. What? I
I wasn't really... I mean... What is she doing?
Please, just because I'm a woman doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. You might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am.
And that is how you make yourself sus. I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you.
No excuses. I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you?
Yes, Mrs. Beat. Yes, Mrs. Beat. I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one. That was a very loud mutter.
I heard that. That Japanese man thinks a policeman's wife's word counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my Rolly won't.
Duly noted, Mrs. Beat. Please, I humbly ask you to continue.
What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder? I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though.
That was useless, so why did you bother saying it? You only bothered to say it because plot.
Hold it!
Mrs. Beat, nobody is questioning what you've told us.
I saw it, I did. That evening, I saw it clearly. That little Eastern man with the whiskers and the funny curved back slinking away from the scene. And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky.
All very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction.
Oh, yes, well, that's a little embarrassing, really. I'm always ending up at the wrong place when I've made arrangements to meet Rolly. He gets ever so cross.
I really want to, see the rest of her little spiel, but I gotta pursue it.
Excuse me!
Constable Beat, is there a problem? No sir, no problem, sir. Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind, perhaps? Well, in a way, sir, yes, sir. I was just remembering that the same thing happened that evening is all. You mean Mrs. Beat lost her way on the night of the incident?
And that's when she moved the body!
Well, you see... Oh, never mind. Never mind. Okay. Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box in the next beat over from mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes, but my darling was gone a good 15.
Oh, really? You're such a tease. But the reason I was so long was because of the bouquets, silly.
The bouquet? Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about?
Oh, it was a present for our wedding anniversary. Rolly's so romantic. He saved up for it with 5 things and half pennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds.
Yes, how romantic.
I'd forgotten all about it until just now. Had you, my darling?
Yes. Oh, yes. But that was just between us. No talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise.
Really? Oh.
What was that all about? Constable Beat looks very obviously troubled during that exchange.
I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure of one thing. We have to ask Mrs. Beat about the bouquet.
Mrs. Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned. I'd like you to add the details about it to your testimony, please.
Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to. What happened was I dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while.
Hold it!
You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime?
Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back, I was so shocked, I dropped the bouquet Rolly gave me. It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice at first.
No light, you say? But there's so much light, we say. Or was it? I don't remember.
It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice at first.
And then you went to the police box to report it to the policeman whose beat it was on?
Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again. But the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all.
In case you need reminding, Mrs. Beat, the victim is not deceased.
I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road.
Your husband, presumably?
That's right. Silly me, I had gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although, I'm going to blame the bouquet this time. I can't think how it got there, I really can't.
So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of Bar Road to the opposite. Curious indeed.
Isn't it? But the worst of it is, I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose Rolly bought me. And with the change from the gutters he spent so long collecting.
By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry, solitary rose?
Oh, yes, that's it. That's the bouquet Rolly bought me for our anniversary. of old bits of change he found in the gutter.
Maybe just call it a rose. Tell us, Lord Van Zykes, where did you come by the flower?
According to the According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Garadab household.
In front of the Garadab's house?
Although it wasn't noticed until the morning as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case, since it was found on the opposite side of the fair.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Could I have it back now, please?
No, I think for good measure, the rose should be added to the court record as evidence.
Oh,
Anniversary bouquet has been added to the court record.
but it's a symbol of our love. I want it back after the trial. Do you hear me? I want it back.
Good grief. Rest assured that I shall do my very best not to forget Mrs. Beat.
Nothing strange to report, eh? Let's save there. And, present?
Objection!
You claim, Constable Bates, that there was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene. But that cannot be.
What do you mean to say?
In your testimony just now, Mrs. Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection!
Yes, on the opposite side of Friar Road to where the victim was attacked. But concerning the size of that meager bouquet, if a single story bloom can be so described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street back to the gutter where it belongs.
Meager?
Objection!
But if that were the case, why did Constable Beat not testify to that fact?
No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beat swore to that on Scotland Yard's honor. But the bouquet belonged to me. It has nothing to do with the case. That's why Rowley didn't mention it, I'm sure.
No, because sadly, It's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way round.
What are you talking about?
Think about it. Besides Mrs. Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Garrideb's book. Mr. Garrideb's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out the window by his wife, would have struck the pane on the casement window and landed here, on the west side of the street. And yet, it was actually found here, on the opposite side of the road, in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Mrs. Beat's bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime, on the east side of the street. But in fact, it was actually found here, on the opposite side of the road, in front of Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house. There's no logical explanation for those things, unless someone deliberately moved them.
What are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my Rolly's done something wrong. Don't you listen to a word that Scrawny the lawyer says. Withering on about books and bouquets, why should we care? It's nitpicking, that's what it is.
Oh good. Mrs. Garrideb's come round. You might call it nitpicking, Mrs. Garrideb. But deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offense. It's called, tampering, Mr. Naruhodo. Excuse me. Tampering, Mr. Naruhodo. But the person will... No. But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it, for a very subtle but compelling reason.
Objection!
Tampering? You barely heard the term before.
Tell us, my learned friend, who would possibly have had cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there's someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all the testimony to that one particular person. Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime?
Take that!
Obviously, there is only one person who it could have been. Constable Rolly Beat, it was you. What? A policeman? A member of Scotland Yard?
What nonsense! Why would my Rolly do something like that? There's no one straighter than my husband. There's no one straighter than my husband. No Bobby works more tirelessly for the people of London.
Mrs. Beat, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it.
You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about the Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it.
Objection!
If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it.
Oh. And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene. Well...
Objection!
First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife. Now you incriminate a policeman as well. But your accusations lack one very important thing. You claim the crime scene was tampered with. But there is only one reason anyone would commit such a reckless crime. To hide something.
That's right, he's right. But my husband and I just happened to be there, that's all. So why would we have anything to hide? It doesn't make sense.
You've offered no motive for this alleged tampering. And until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats.
Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair.
Mr. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery?
Counsel, you have made a very serious accusation against a London police officer. If you are mistaken, I am sure I need not to point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably damaged. With that stark warning in mind, you will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering. Yes, my lord. Constable Beat's motives for the tampering with the crime scene was to hide where the victim fell to the ground. That is why the bobby had to cover it up at all costs.
What?
Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road. We saw it happen, remember? It was right here. As if anyone didn't already know.
That's certainly what everyone has been led to believe. But in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all.
What? What?
I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, counsel.
If that is your assertion, then the court is dying to know my Nipponi's friend. Why are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening?
This side of the road. But that's
on the opposite side of the road.
I don't understand.
On the evening in question, Mr. Gerdeb's book fell directly down from the open window above, and your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself. Good gracious!
Objection!
Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place.
That's right. I saw it with my own eyes.
It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was the typical London fog on the ground when you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid. That was actually on the west side of Briar Road.
No, that's not true. It can't have been.
Constable Beat then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. He moved all the things shown in this print. The victim herself, the 4 books. He moved everything, in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road. Extraordinary. But the constable overlooked one thing.
What? What did he overlook?
The bouquet, I presume.
Exactly. The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Zyke said it wasn't noticed until the morning as it lay where the street lamps cast no light.
Yes, it could have been seen in the dark, obviously.
Which is why it was only the bouquet that was found in its original position, on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. And that is the defense's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond? Constable Rolly Beat.
Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, but I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important?
Oh, Rolly. It isn't true, is it? What the lawyer said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is, because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know.
I had a dream, terrible dream. All the things I did that night, everything come out, everything exposed. Only it seems it wasn't a dream at all.
Good golly.
Order! Order! What on earth is the meaning of all this?
Oh, Rolly, why? Why would you do something like this? Moving a corpse is a criminal offense, isn't it?
Wishing the victim dead should be one too. Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London town.
I can't say, sir. What? I really am ever so sorry about this. For damaging the Yard's reputation, for everything.
I have a possible explanation for why, on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason.
What? How could you possibly know? You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman.
And yet, Lord Van Zyke, it is this foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth to the matter thus far. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you please. Yes, my lord. Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence. At once, my lord. England, Japan. It makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions. What gives away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions?
Take that!
I realize I'm a foreigner to this land, and I have only just arrived from Japan, which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me.
I've learned that, though honorable, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example. Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on his beat in all kinds of ways. There's no doubt that the young Barbie is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly. But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special. Special? How? On account of this bouquet, my lord.
Oh yes, it was our very first wedding anniversary.
Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was so looking forward to taking her out to for a celebratory meal, when he and Mrs. Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. When he saw the shadowy figure through the fog, collapse on the pavement ahead of them, what must have gone through the man's mind? This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to lend me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with the initial investigations and help detectives. Aha! Constable Beat, is that or is that not the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day? Yes. Everything you said, it's alright. So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat.
Oh,
Exactly. To summarize, the incident actually occurred on Constable Beat's beat. Good gracious. Constable, do you realize the gravity of what you have done? It was the first time since I became a cop that I had ever cursed God. Stay close to me, Pat. The criminal could still be lurking somewhere. As we ran over to the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. We've got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then it dawned on me. I realized where we were. Where the victim was lying. And what it meant for me. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why did it have to happen here? And why tonight of all nights? Why? It's Copper's job to guard the scene of the crime, so I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then, when I opened my mouth to speak, it just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the next beat to mine, Pat. So you'll have to go to the police box that covers it. Turn right around Meerschaum Street and then... Meerschaum? Um, um,
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
oh, Constable. I just wanted just that one night to take my Patricia out for dinner. Oh, Rolly. Just that one night.
You knew that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would be ruined, and so you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction. Just across the street, the pavement of Briar Road, the east pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighboring beat's care.
You see, I thought, well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, of course he did. Otherwise, my Rolly would never have left the poor woman freezing on the cold pavement.
Ah, I see your meaning now.
But God got me back from my sins, didn't he? That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat. Oh no, Rolly, that was my fault. I should never have dropped it in such a dark place. I'm so sorry, Rolly. I mean, this is the only reason we're discovering the truth, so thanks, Rolly. And can you tell us, Constable, how many books did you move from one side of the road to the other in total? Huh? 4 it was. Yes, sir. Definitely 4. 3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsume, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garrett household, of course. But what made you place the book in the victim's hand, when all the other books were scattered haphazardly around, I mean? Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it.
How you found it? What do you mean?
When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding in the book. So when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. You sure it was the Lion's Pride? You're sure that was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding? Oh yes, sir. No doubt about it, sir. Interesting. 4th book's information has been updated in the court record. I thought I was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only 2 people at the scene, and Pat and me both saw it happen. However, which way you looked at it, it had to be the fellow. However, which way you looked at it, it had to be the fellow who ran off who'd done it, I thought. I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of difference. I suppose this is it for me now. I've had it.
My lord. Yes, Lord Van Sykes.
I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses.
Constable,
You may withdraw.
Yes, sir. Mr. Prosecutor, sir, what will become of Marvoli? What will happen to him?
For now, you are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course.
Please, don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late.
Leave it now. Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired.
Alright then, my love.
One last thing, Constable.
Sir?
Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant they may seem to you. Yes, sir. Carve that lesson in your mind. And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime.
Never again, sir. You mean to say...
Leave now. This trial is not yet over.
Yes, sir.
Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Whoever fought the far-right party, transplanting the entire scene of a crime like that. Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here. Principally, that the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume, is the only person who could have possibly committed this crime.
Objection!
No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back. Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already. Lord Van Zykes, is this true?
Very well. Name the person if you will, and a further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing.
You will name this other person who could have perpetrated this crime. I'm sorry you didn't do this. Because this isn't over. Because this trial isn't over. We haven't seen the second person who lives at the Garrett household. It's not you. But we haven't met the other guy yet, so it's you.
Take that!
The defense would once again like to request a cross-examination of a new witness, my lord. Once again, my assistant made the same request earlier, in order to finally reveal the truth about this case. It's imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Mrs. Joan Garrideb.
Me? Me? Oh dearie me.
Objection!
That request has already been denied.
Objection!
But the situation is very different now. Mrs. Garrideb, answer me this.
Now, what do you want? What do you want now, you little toad?
At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garadab. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited, and to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks out over Briar Road.
Well, what of it?
You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open top-hinged casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the crime.
Yes, and as I said, what of it?
During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garadab. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before?
I don't recall it.
Seriously?
Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? And anyway, the man over there and all that regalia and members of the jury said the members of the jury needn't testify, didn't he?
Conveniently, yes.
Objection!
No, I have no recollection of saying that at all. Juror number 4.
Oh!
Make no mistake, you jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out.
But that's just a common or garden knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have several like that at home. If one went missing, how would you expect me to know? What's that?
Are you joking? What are you saying, please, Mrs. Garadab?
Now you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. Oh, the poor woman. So, yes, I want evidence. I want hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. You're going to have to prove to me that I threw that knife if that's what you think. Come along now, chop chop, do your worst.
What evidence? What evidence could I have? What evidence can you give me? I do not know what there is to know. At the tip, small piece of the blade appears to be missing. What could have happened to it? Yes, you don't think it could still be lodged in the victim, do you? Oh dear, I hope not. That sounds terribly painful. It also seems...
what evidence? Do we have evidence? Well, Mr. Naruhodo? If I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already.
Then take the stand, juror.
Oh!
The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Van Sykes.
I'm going to have to testify?
Juror number 4. As I'm sure you will appreciate, having observed it with your own eyes today, witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed. Truths of which the witnesses themselves may not have even been aware.
Oh, dearie me.
So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garrideb. And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels?
Certainly, my lord.
Oh, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I'm here, the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer.
Witness, state your name and the occupation.
Oh, yes, my name is Joan Garrideb. And I'm a juror and such like.
It sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife or a maid or what anymore. The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madam?
Yes, my lord.
You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on that evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth.
Oh, dearie me.
Chin up, Johnny. Nothing to worry about now.
Oh, I didn't know you were here, John.
Wasn't only you in that room that day, old thing, was it? That I think I ought to testify as well, don't you?
But what about your knee, dear?
Don't you worry about that. Hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone.
Oh, John.
I presume you are Mr. John Garrideb?
Yes, sir.
Former 2nd Lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the oh my gosh. 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. I've seen my fair share of action, and now living the quiet life, as it were.
The quiet life. Were you not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse on the day in question? Ah, well, yes. Ahem. Quite.
I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of British court. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. He will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question. Sir, at once. On the day that you're referring to, the wife and I had a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Knocked the candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had to put it out though, and got the window open.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him.
Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I'd noticed if 1 or 2 went missing, I'm afraid.
If that bally thing in the victim's back really was one of ours, you'll have a job of proving it, I think.
Congrats. Yikes. Okay. It sounds as though it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening.
Although an entirely one-sided assault, it seems.
The enemy caught us on the hop, sir. Had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Of course, a veteran such as myself is only too aware of that on every battlefield. You're just a gnat's whisker away from death at any moment. Are we still talking about a marital quarrel here? Well, I must say I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife.
In combat, one's focus narrows such that surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not have been may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end.
Ben Sykes may be right.
Well, whatever the chances, we only have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Miss Naruhodo.
Yes, I'm afraid so. Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination.
Battle of Garadeb.
Okay, bit of a... I mean...
We know the reason, we just can't prove it.
Hold it!
The reason is what you told us yesterday, I believe.
Yes, that's right. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was tucked in the pages of a book belonging to Mr. Garadeb.
A rather passionate note, in fact. But Mrs. Garadeb found a note discovering her husband's little secret. And she gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it, too. What a sordid state of affairs. Hell on earth. I say, when a chap says he can't recall such things, it's common decency not to drag it all up. And besides, half of it was wide of the mark anyway.
A likely story.
These waters run very deep. And what transpired next, after these multiple blows to the face? Knocked the candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out though and got the fire. And got the window open. I mean, you also set your bookcase on fire.
Hold it!
And the fire also spread to some items of furniture, didn't it? The bookcase, my armchair, anything of mine, really. Just so happens there was some bathwater around that evening, so I sloshed that about to put it out. A most precarious position you put yourself in. Ours is a very sorry townhouse on the west side of the street where the water main isn't connected yet. Have to draw water from a public water pump during the day if you need any, you see.
The lodgers are always moaning that they can't get any water at night. Although, that little mustached Japanese man buys water in bottles, I believe.
The defendant, Mr. Natsume, you mean?
Yes, he receives a stipend for his studies, you know, from his home country. Can you imagine being able to brew a pot of tea at all hours? He's obviously very well off.
Have you actually seen the state of the man?
I believe he uses all his income to buy books.
Well, anyway, the point is, I was able to douse the fire with water, fortunately enough.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him.
Hold it!
Yeah. Even though the room was on fire?
As far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw.
That is most certainly not true of a Susato takedown, Mr. Naruhodo.
That is most certainly not true of a Susato takedown, Mr. Naruhodo.
How did she know I was thinking that? So, please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day?
In all honesty, I don't recall, but I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel,
Jupiter!
and a sponge. A napkin.
Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, sir? Mr. Giradeb.
Don't shoot. Sorry. I beg your pardon.
Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind?
Nothing of any significance, no. Just that the barrage of projectiles.
Gotta love the bots. Okay, well.
Just at the barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in my direction was something somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and the fire poker, I seem to recall. Ouch. The woman's aim is uncanny. She landed a direct hit. With every volley. Ah! Good grief, woman. We're not at home now. This is a court of law.
Oh, dearie me. Ever so sorry, dear.
What's she even doing with a teapot in here?
Honestly, John, I would have never have thrown such things at you, obviously. Well, take a look at this then. How do you suppose that happened,
Your pipe, sir.
Have this thing in my hand as usual, at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles she did, yes. And when I went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I'd like to see a sponge do that sort of damage. I see. Your pipe was broken. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I've managed to bandage the thing up now. You are one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear? Everything is important. The defense believes Mr. Garrideb's remarks just now to be of great significance.
Objection!
This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife, and pipes, as well as hearts, may be broken. Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to the formal testimony.
Indeed. Common sense, one might say. Might one?
In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir?
Well, I don't see why not.
Oh, dearie me, there you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady.
Ingratiate meaning. Bring oneself into favor with someone by flattering or trying to please them. Very well. The court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence.
I hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down.
Oh no, it's fine. Thanks to Susato-san, we have some new evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully. Well, thank you for that rebuttal, Mr. Garrideb. Now, if we could return to the crux of the matter. Can you tell the court about the knife used to attack the victim?
Yeah, you mean this knife? With your piece of it stuck in your pipe? Oh. Ah. Perfect. Oh, something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe there. Yes, I saw it. Something's stuck in there, I think. Let's turn it over and give it a shake. What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. The tip of a blade? Surely, it couldn't be. This is the tiny piece of metal we found in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. Tip of a blade? Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? I don't really know. It's just something's bothering me, but I can't quite put my finger on what it is. Perhaps in that case, it would be wise to examine some of the other pieces of evidence again. We all know where this is going. See, I really wanna just present it right here, but I don't know that I can present it right here.
Hold it!
So let's keep going. Sorry? Would you care to elaborate?
Well, nothing really. Nothing to say, really. Rather partial to this part of carving, you see. Pipes and whatnot. Fishing tackle. You know, the sort of thing.
It's a passion we both share. I like to carve little wooden trinkets too. And then there's my leather work.
Sorry to say, we're always losing knives about the place. And we have dozens of the things.
I sell them on the market sometimes. 20 for the price of 19. Needless to say, I snap them up. John prefers to use 2 knives at meals times 2 instead of a knife and fork.
No, Joan. We don't want people thinking I'm some sort of savage. Ah!
Here we go again with the scaldings. Why are they being so evasive? I imagine it's because they don't want to believe it. They can't bear the thought that it might have been one of their knives that injured the victim. Which is entirely understandable, of course, but still.
Go on with your testimony, witnesses.
Sir.
Hold it!
Prove it, So you have no intention of admitting it was your knife? unless we can produce proof. Even though there is no other credible possibility if Mr. Natsume is innocent.
Objection!
You forget, my Nipponese friend, that it has yet to be established that the accused is not responsible for the attack.
As if I could forget. If only there was some way to know who had handled the knife. But I suppose wizardry like that is just a dream. Perhaps you're thinking of fingerprinting, Mr. Naruhodo. What? You mean it's not a dream? That sort of wizardry really exists? Whenever people touch anything, they leave behind a unique pattern from their skin, or so they say. But I can't see anything.
There are already countries in the world where these so-called fingerprints can be used as evidence. Lord Strongheart is currently discussing the matter at the Ministry of Justice.
Yes, I believe we are rapidly approaching an era of scientific methods of investigation. But for now, we shall have to find an alternative method of proving our assertion that this knife found in the victim's back was originally in Mr. and Mrs. Garredub's house. Ugh. If only I could transplant this whole incident to several years in the future. That's the extent of their testimony, is it? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I think we've heard all this before, to be honest. I can't say I'm particularly confident we'll be able to prove anything new from this testimony. But in this cross-examination, it's absolutely essential that we establish how this knife came to be at the scene of the incident. Yes, I know. I'm sure both of them must be feeling very worried. Worried that, in fact, a knife belonging to one of them caused the victim's injury. If we could find even a tiny shred of evidence to support that theory, we would cinch this trial for us. It would cinch this trial for us. It would explain everything. Yes, it would. So for Soseki's-san's sakes, we must find that last crucial piece of evidence. Gotta save the game before I screw it up by presenting it to the wrong place. Alright, let's go. Presenting knife tip. Mr. Garredub, could I ask you to take a good look at this, please?
You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing.
You can't?
You used to call me Dead-Eyed Deb in the regiment, of course. But that was some time ago now. Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days, I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest.
Oh, he does. Dearie me, it's rather wearing being asked about every other letter and every other word. You must be very dusty. Oh, you must be very busy. Yeah, close enough.
What is that? A tiny scrap of metal.
Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear to be first just
at first just a tiny scrap, is in fact a crucial piece of evidence.
Interesting. And where did the defense come by this evidence?
It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe.
My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got there.
And what precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Counsel? Are you suggesting that this is in some way related to the matter of the stabbing on Briar Road? Such a weirdo. I am.
What?
When put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord. Man, she really does. Anyways. You appear rather confident in that extraordinary statement, Counsel. Very well then, present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence, when paired with this fragment of metal, allegedly reveals the truth of this entire case? I wonder what it could possibly be. This is the knife that was found in the victim's back. If you look at it closely, you will see that there is a small piece at the tip of the blade that is missing.
A common issue of the inferior blades sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in their victims' bones.
And what of this particular knife?
No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim.
Objection!
No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is a very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe. Oh! Good grief, Lord Van Sykes.
I don't believe it. The knife from the crime scene and this fragment of metal are a perfect match.
Good golly gosh! This judge.
Order! Is this some sort of Eastern sorcery? This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle.
A miracle? So Van Sykes has figured it out, has he? Counsel, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once. Yes, my lord. The crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is, when did the fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Garrideb's pipe? Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony. I had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean with one of her soft projectiles, she did. Yes. Would have never been sent flying unless it hit something pretty solid.
Oh, dearie me.
During the argument between these two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Garrideb flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Garrideb, instead striking the pipe in his hand at the time,
which caused the tip to break off, of course.
Good lord. Yes, and that's when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Garrideb's pipe. The chances of that are 1,000,000 to 1. And yet there is no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out the open window. Ah! In short, this knife, which fell from the window of the Garrideb's house, is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back, in the street below. Oh gosh! Oh dear! Oh no!
Objection!
A full-bodied fury, I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points, plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument. Sorry? But after all, it is just a theory. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because you see, foiled by an insurmountable inconsistency.
An insurmountable what? Lord Van Sykes, explain yourself. What is this inconsistency you claim to have identified?
An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with the knife planted in the middle of her back.
She bent down to pick the book up, and then the knife followed. Easy. Easy. Let's get this over with. Yes, in her... Ah!
That's right, you silly little man.
Now, Joan, you old thing, what are you getting so excited about?
Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. If the knife that had struck her had fallen from above, there is no possible way it could have planted itself into the victim's back.
Ah! Oh my gosh. Is he like, is there a hole in his pants? Order! Order!
Quite right. You see, that's exactly right. If the knife had fallen on her from above, it would have struck her on the top of her head.
Well, realize it quickly!
I'm lost for words. I knew it. I never liked this theory in the first place. I don't know, though. What really did happen?
Would appear the defense has made a rather spectacular blunder.
The theory has even one inconsistency. It cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history.
Connect the dots, man. We were so close. I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. But now the way has been blocked completely by just one simple inconsistency. It is very consistent. Go on. Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency and the theory will stand. Miss Susato. You mustn't worry, Miss Naruhodo. You were just caught off guard, that's all, and your mind went blank. But if the path you were on is indeed correct, then a way will present itself. The key to this is in the court record, I'm sure. All the information you need is in there.
It seems you have nothing to say, my niece friend. Well, your silence speaks volumes. A tacit acceptance of your theory is fatally flawed.
Tacit. Understood or implied without being stated.
Objection!
That is the weakest objection. This inconsistency doesn't mean I wasn't on the right track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. It's a test. Yes. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way that it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is.
What are you implying?
Counsel? There's a piece of evidence in the court record that can explain this inconsistency. That can explain how the knife fell from above, could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer.
Goodness!
Utter madness. Truly, this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak. If I can successfully make sense of this, the truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explains how the falling knife became lodged in the victim's back. See, it could be the crime scene photograph. Or it could be the fourth book. It does say it was in the victim's hands. I'll
Take that!
This. The fourth book found at the scene. This is the final piece of evidence the defense will present. The burned book. Is that not Mr. Garadeb's book? Yes, and to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. This photograph print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand. But as we all know now, it was the police constable that put the book between her fingers like that. Quite so. As part of his wholesale transplanting of the crime scene to the opposite side of the road. That's true. However, as part of his testimony, Constable Beat made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. In other words, the victim had already picked up the book of her own volition. And clearly, that must have been before she suffered the knife wound. Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd have done much of anything. So the question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand? By Jingo! I think I'm beginning to see what might have happened now.
Oh dearie me.
We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Garrett household onto the pavement below. At precisely the moment that the victim was walking past.
Yes, at exactly that moment. The young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her.
The book I threw.
Yes, Mrs. Garrett. And what do you think that woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement?
Well, I really can't imagine it, but I suppose she might have reached down and picked the book up.
Yes. That is exactly what the woman, in fact, did. She picked up the book.
Oh heavens!
And when the woman reached down to pick the fallen book up, what position would her back have been in? That's right, facing the sky, completely and utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book, the next object fell from the room above, the jackknife, straight into the middle of her back. And at the same time, walking by chance directly behind Miss Green, was the defendant, Mr. Soseki Natsume. Well, I never! It appeared to Mr. Natsume that the woman simply collapsed on the floor. In the dark and the fog, he didn't see the knife falling on her from above.
And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker.
So there never was a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place. No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind this case. Dun dun dun. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Garrett?
The very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wondered if perhaps it might have been something like that.
There, old bean.
Poor Mrs. Garrideb. Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book. And I threw the knife as well. John, dear.
It's alright. I know.
I'm ever so sorry. Truly, I'm sorry. Yep, we definitely see his pants. I don't think that's... Yikes. Lord Van Zykes, what is the news of Mrs. Gareleb?
She's been taken to the infirmary. It would appear that today's events had left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe she will recover in due course. There is no cause for concern.
Yes. Unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could easily have been a terrible tragedy. They shall have to prepare themselves for the consequences of their actions.
There is some good news, however, my lord. I have just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon.
It's strange. We've been talking about the victim all this time, but we've never once met her.
How wonderful! The woman is out of danger, it seems.
Yes, that is good news. So, Mr. Soseki Natsume?
Yes.
On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture, and have been repaid with immeasurable unkindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies. No, it is me who should be begging your pardon. Oh, no, Mr. Natsume. That evening, when the young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusion again in my confusion. What conclusion, sir?
I was sure that the woman was dead. Yes. Constable Bede said the same thing, didn't he? He thought that she had been killed, too. I suppose she might have looked completely lifeless. It has been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now. I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits lurking in the fog. Like, they're haunting me. Poor Soseki-san. His imagination really has got the better of him. Yes. Poor man. So when it happened, I thought that the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I should never have dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help, for a doctor, for the police. Instead, I've managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires. And for that, I am truly sorry. One could indeed say that some sort of mischievous spirit has been at work here, I think. One that created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. We were befooled by the spirit and led to false conclusions. But thanks to Lord Van Zykes and our young lawyer here from the east, that chain has now been broken and the spirit exorcised. I heartily commend you both. Oh. Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for your decisions regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court? As the foreman of this jury, I assure you, we've reached a fair and just conclusion. I do declare the truth has been extremely cruel at times. Well, I don't suspect the woman next to me, that's for sure. Sitting in for the old bean, well, she's out of action, you know. But I know what her decision would be. Does this mean I'll finally be able to get up here and start work? Well, it's about time.
I say, I'll have a corker of story to tell the grandchildren when I get home. Well done.
Very well. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby demand your final decisions. Mr. Foreman.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
They're finally voiced, which would have been helpful to hear their voices, to decide their voices. Well, very well. Mr. Soseki Sanatsume, I hereby pronounce you not guilty.
Confetti!
And fireworks, okay then. That's dangerous. Start another fire. And finally, Mr. Natsume. Oh, yes, Lord Sir. You're now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me.
Oh, yes, sir, of course. On my life, I swear to you I'll never set foot in a courtroom again. I'm transported to tears.
Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned. February 20th, 3:17 p.m. The Old Bailey, defendant's antechamber.
Oh, locum. Wait, you mean me? Of course. Is there another locum here?
Is there even one?
Compared to the original locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it?
What's wrong with using my actual name?
Oh, at last, I am free. I'm free. Joyful, joyful, joyous, jubilant, jubilation, heady, hearty, happiness, hurrah! Oh, I am pleased. Mr. Natsume is delighted. Would it be so hard to just say that then? Locum, you did it. You saved me from the brink. Well, what happened to the poor woman was in no way your fault after all. I'm just glad that everyone can see that now. No, not that. Lovely, loyal, locum, lawyer. Yes? I mean, as I said before, I've never got used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners. I see towering brick buildings. And from high up windows, I see them looking down on me, laughing. Look at that little hunchback. Oh dear. I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume. But today, you locum lawyer gave my gloom the boot. You stood firm behind that baronial bench before all those blabbling British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth. And when I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed. So they actually see it too. Okay. Behold, the best barrister ever born. Well, that's very flattering, and we're very pleased for you. This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount to my old friends back in Japan. Ah, an anecdote? Is that what's to become of all my hard work? Ah, there you are, my dear fellows. I apologize for keeping you waiting. I was late this morning. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, what a pleasure to see you. This song is such a bop. I see I'm here not a moment too soon. The disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say. Oh. The trial shall begin presently, Mr. Naruhodo. And I wish you the very best of luck. It's just finished. What? No. Then my haste was in vain? Ah, it's you! Here, look, Sholmes. Oh, have we met, sir? This is Mr. Natsume, the man you had arrested, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom, either of your bleak lodgings or at that prison cell. I simply can't place that curious face in the light. Charming. This is all your fault, Herr Sholmes. You are the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you peace of my mind. My apologies, sir, but I'm sure you have placed you now.
You're the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, are you not?
Ah,
Had she been taken to the hospital more urgently, I feel perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now. Oh. But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human after all. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience. I do feel very badly about how I behaved. Well, never mind. Now then. What is it that you wanted to say to me, sir? Nothing. Ah ha 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 ha. Priceless. Oh, I'm sorry, really, but that was quite priceless. Poor Soseki-san. Still, on the bright side, you've had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And it would seem you were not even found guilty. But there is no bright side. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsume? Even after this, I'm still cursed by the spirits, and now by the Reaper. Ah, Lord Van Sykes. I haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in court means. Even if you're found not guilty, you're still doomed. It will be alright, Mr. Natsume. If the Reaper appears trying to make trouble, I will protect you. Hiya! With a perfectly executed Susato takedown. Much as I liked being turned on my head, a bit of warning the next time might be nice. Miss Susato. So, Mr. Natsume, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan? Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon. Oh! It has been already a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I have been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here, and the city it has shaped. I've come to realize that it is my calling to sail back home and tell my fellow countrymen about it. That's very touching, Mr. Natsume. Or, perhaps let's failed terms. You wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse. That is not it at all. The more I learn of literature, the more this strange feeling crawls at my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen a work of my own. Oh, I see. A work of literature by Soseki-san. Could be an interesting read. And what about Miss Susato and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry, what about us?
Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached compatriot? Why would we? A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London, and only now does it feel as though we finally found our feet. And you are accommodated in the hotel at present, are you not? That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. I've calculated we can only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted. Well then, you could take my lodgings. Oh, the windowless room? Ah, but what it lacks in windows, it more than makes up for with a floor, a ceiling, and walls. Great. And of course, I'd be happy to leave behind the accursed evil spirit. Oh my, an evil spirit? Oh yes. It tries to suffocate you while you sleep. It's an infallible wake-up call. Well, think about it, if that's alright. Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me? Really? Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself. Though it's up to the in the attic, I might add. Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft? I spoke with the landlady this morning on a matter of price, and Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of. Oh, this is simply wonderful. What an honor to be invited to the lodgings in the great detective's office's attic. I'm too overcome for words. So suggesting we look elsewhere is out then. Then it's settled. Iris will prepare a welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsume. I insist. I don't know what to say, but thank you, and yes. Wonderful. And I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsume. It shan't take long. Somebody's happy. Welcome. I knew that you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London. Likewise, Mr. Natsume. It's been a privilege meeting you too. It's a shame that we're going to have to say goodbye so soon. Well, I've come to realize that I belong in Japan. But welcome. We'll meet again one day. Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then I'll be a successful lawyer. Hopefully by then I'll be a successful author. Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, Mr. Sholmes. I've little doubt Mr. Natsume will be released in time for the dinner this evening. Unless the Reaper's curse gets him! Woo! And so, with Sosaki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode with Mr. Sholmes to what was to become our new home, 221B Baker Street. February, 4:41 p.m., the attic room. So this is to be our new office. Yes. Our office? I rather like the sound of that. Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it? I hope you can see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step, but I'd like to think we're getting a little closer to your dream now. So, my dear fellows, do you like the place? Oh my gosh, his hair. Ah, Mr. Sholmes. Yes, thank you so much. It's a delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it. Good. I'm pleased to hear it. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you.
I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner.
We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsume arrives. We have a lot to celebrate. Iris, you must let me help you.
Alright then, Susie.
You can be in charge of the salad. Mr. Natsume is not here today, and he might not arrive.
Splendid.
So, Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel to have your own office in the capital? It's very exciting, actually. I can't help wondering what adventures await us. Ah ha 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 ha. Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is. Sorry? No, not the song. No. London is a glorious place full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. But the brightest of lights past the darkest of shadows. Shadows? What do you mean? Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So once again, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London. Of course, at the time, I had no idea of the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke. But it wasn't long before my turn came to lift the facade and see the true depth of the murk that lay behind it. And that's it. That is the end of episode 4. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. Bye.